Hi, today I want to talk about fueling your longer rides. Now, this is an area where I think most of us get this wrong because we are basically not eating enough to fuel the work that we do on our longer endurance rides. Now, if you're building up for a challenge in the summer, maybe you want to do a sportif, or you're building for your race season, or whatever it is you're doing, the idea is that you're going to be progressing. So you're going to be doing more training over the coming months than you maybe have done recently. And when you're doing that, you're adding longer rides into the mix. So you're probably doing a long ride once or twice a week. And that long ride could be 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours. Now, trust me, 99% of us will not be fueling those rides correctly, because the science of fueling for cycling and for long endurance has changed dramatically over the last 5 to 8 years. And the pros are consuming quantities of carbohydrates in both their training and their racing that we didn't think the body could absorb 10 years ago. So things have moved on, and your average club rider, your average leisure rider who just enjoys cycling for fitness, myself included, hasn't moved along with it. So over the last year, I've actually learned quite a lot of new stuff, and I'm 59 now, and it surprises me that you can still learn really basic things, and fueling your longer rides is one of them. So how many of you have been out on a ride, put food in your back pockets before you started, filled 2 bottles up, and come home 3-4 hours later and there's still quite a lot of food in your back pocket and you've only drunk half, 3/4 of a bottle? That's a scenario that most of us had. Another one is you go out on your group ride at the weekend, and there's 10 of you, or however many of you, and everyone's got food and stuff in their bottles. They go to the cafe, they have one piece of cake and they have a cup of coffee, and when they get home they still have got the food and stuff on their bottles. All they've eaten really is that cake at the cafe, because that's just what we've always done. But most of the people doing that, myself included again, last hour of that ride will be feeling really sluggish, really empty. And that's not your fitness running out, that's your fueling. So if you go out on a 4-hour ride and you've got good power for 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours, but then you start fading, that is most of the time because you have run out of fuel. So what do you do about it? Well, basically, it's simple. You eat and drink regularly, and you eat and drink a lot more than you were used to. Going back to the pros, the women pros now are being asked to consume around 80 to 90 grams of carbohydrate an hour in their hard training sessions and their races. And the men, it's something like 120 to 130 grams an hour, which is a phenomenal amount of food if you think that your average gel's got 20 to 25 grams of carbs in it. So how many of those are you going to have to eat every hour just to get that type of quantity in? So the mind boggles about how much they're actually able to consume, and the fact that they need to consume that. For us, it's, doing a steady endurance ride, it's going to be a lot less, but it's sort of around 50 to 60 grams an hour is a really good thing, good quantity to aim for. And that's an awful lot. So you go out for a 4-hour ride and you're thinking you've got to consume between 200 to 250 grams of carbohydrates in that ride to fully fuel that ride. Now, how do you do that? Well, I don't think you can rely on sports nutrition all the time, because just eating gels, we know, isn't going to be good for our intestines, our stomachs, everything like that, and it does cause issues. Gels are great, but maybe at the end of a ride. So personally, I start with real food. I'll start with a banana in my pocket. I use wraps. So I like wraps, peanut butter and honey, or peanut butter and jam on them. I've even started making these Rice Krispie breaks where you melt marshmallows and mix it up with Rice Krispies and some butter, and they're really, really good, and they're really simple sugars, so they go into the body very quickly. And I take Haribo. So it's whatever real-ish food, and it's obviously it's not healthy food, but it's simple sugars that get into the body quickly. I stuff those in my pockets. I will have a couple of gels in case I run out of steam at the end. I put carbs in my bottle, 750 milliliter bottle, 50 grams of carbs in one, water in the other. So I'm hydrating and I am taking carbohydrate from my fuel. If it's a really long ride, I'll take a sachet of carbs to refill at a garage when I get some extra water or whatever it might be. So I've got another sachet so the back end of my ride, I've still got some carbs drinks in my bottle. And the trick is to start eating and drinking early. So you literally start, if you got Haribo's, I will sometimes have a mouthful as I leave the house. So I'm literally getting on my bike, I'm eating. So I've started my fueling process right at the beginning of the ride. A classic mistake people make is they're going out for a 3-hour ride and you say you've got to eat 50 grams an hour, and they literally wait for the first hour, then they start eating their 50 grams. Now, if you add that up, they're going to do one at 1 hour, one at 2 hours. They probably won't do one at 3 hours, so they've only eaten 100 grams. You wanted them to eat 150 grams. So that's a really simple mistake. So start eating and drinking early. If it's not in your head, set a reminder on your head unit every 20 or 30 minutes and take a little bit of food, take some water, take some carb drink, and hydrate and fuel regularly all the way through the ride. And trust me, this is an absolute game changer. And when you do it properly and when you come back and you have consumed your 200 to 250 grams of carbs in your 4-hour ride, the back end of that ride is just completely different. You feel strong. You can hold the power you could at the beginning of the ride. You are fit enough to do these longer distances. It's just that we haven't been fueling well enough to do it. So you come back and you are not in a comatose state. You don't have to stare at the kitchen floor for 20 minutes before you can do anything. You can function for the rest of the day. You've already started your recovery process. And more than that, if you fully fuel your rides, they don't take so much out of you. You do all the training. You do all the training at the correct power or the correct intensity, whatever you want to do. But then you're better equipped to doing another ride the next day because you haven't depleted yourself so much that you've almost damaged the body. So this fueling, it sounds simple. It sounds, oh yeah, I know I've got to eat. Oh, everyone tells me I've got to eat. Well, none of us really do it unless we consciously think about it. And that is the trick. You actually have to consciously think about how much you're going to be eating in your longer rides. And that is what I do now. I literally plan how many grams of carbs I've got in my pockets or what I can get on my longer rides to fully fuel my 4 and 5 hour rides. And it has changed my training dramatically. And it's enabling me to do more than I otherwise would have from something so simple. So that is the trick. So most of us don't fuel our long rides unless we consciously think about it. And it's so simple, but it's so powerful. So have a go, and I bet you'll see the results very quickly.